everyone. So we are from Group 9 and today we are going to learn about the formal rules and rule writing in phonological and operations and rules. Okay, so my name is Carissa and I'm going to be the first presenter on the phonological processes, which consists of these 5 sub-materials, but I'm going to only present the first and second material. The first thing you need to know is that phonological processes is a kind of phonological operation that results in the sound alternations. And it has 5 different aspects, which is feature-changing rules, deletions, insertion, or eventhesis, metathesis, and reduplication. Okay, so the first feature-changing rules that you need to know, there is assimilation and dissimulations. This rule is affect individual or small group of features, which the assimilation part is a process in which 2 sounds becoming more alike. Assimilation has 2 different elements. The first one is progressive assimilations. That is a sound influence the following segments. For example, the sound K in books, which the sound is the same pronunciation as, or we call it like minus voice. The J in back, the S vibrated and the sound turns into Z. So instead of bags, we pronounce it as bags, which we call it plus voice. And S in buses, the S is sibilant or hissing because S and S is like hissing voice, which if we are having words that consist of these sibilant syllables, they need to add like vowels elements. For example, in the buses, we use is, so like buses. The second one is regressive assimilation, or a sound influence the preceding segment. For example, the first one we have in plus definite. We read it like indefinite because the alveolar turns into an alveolar. The second one is in plus complete, that we pronounce it as incomplete. So it's not like incomplete, but the N turns into ung. The K feller turns into ung feller. The third one is in plus possible, that we know known as impossible, which the N alveolar turns into M bilabial before P bilabial. The second one is dissimulation, which is a process that 2 sounds become less alike. For example, there's fifths and months, that consonant cluster simplification, the fricative becomes T. Here we can see fifths. Many people are like hard to pronounce the T in the middle of the word, so they simplified it into like the usual T using fricative. You can see here fifth and months for the example. Next, so to understand the materials better, we have these questions. The first one is, in the word cats, is the plural ending Z? So the reasons. The cats, if it's not plural, if it's singular, it's cat, or it's end with T. So the T word is voiceless consonants, so it doesn't ending with Z. It's pronounced the same, cats, not with S. The second one, does the sound M ever change to N before bilabials like P or B? Okay, so the answer is no, because M itself is a bilabial sounds that match to be placed before the P or B. So if you have the words that end with N, you need to change it to M. But if it's M, you don't need to change it to N. The third one, does affricative sometimes become T in difficult clusters like months or fifths? Yes, as we see in the example before, that the affricative helps the speaker to make it easier to pronounce the words such as months and fifths. Okay, the second one is deletion. Deletion is a process that removes a segment from a certain phonetic context. It expressed in terms of segment becoming zero or it's completely missing. In English, a schwa or we can pronounce it as a is often deleted when the next vowel is the word stress. For example, the first one we have camera. So camera do not pronounce as camera, but it's camera. So the schwa in here, the bold red schwa is deleted. Second one is family. It's the same as camera. It doesn't pronounce as family, but it's more like family. The schwa in here is deleted. To understand this better, we can see in many dialects of English, Wednesday is pronounced as Wednesday. What phonological process has occurred and what sounds was missing. So we can see they already write how to pronounce here the sounds. The reason is the phonological process that occurred is deletion, and the sound missing was the D in wet. We do not pronounce it as, and some in many dialects we do not pronounce it as Wednesday, but like they turn like they remove the D and turns it into like ns. So like Wednesday.
Okay, so my name is Nadine Nasywa A. Here I will explain about insertions, or also called appendices. So, insertions or appendices is a phonological process where we add an extra sound into a word to make it easier to pronounce. And it usually happens when two sounds are difficult to say together. So, we insert another sound between them to make the pronunciation smoother. And it can be expressed as zero becomes a, which means a sound is inserted where there was nothing before. And for the example, in English, the word something is instead of something. The sound p is inserted between and t, and the second is film instead of film. A vowel is inserted between L and and the third is athlete. Athlete instead of athlete is the vowel is added between t and L to make it easier to say. Next, metathesis is a phonological process where the order of sound changes inside a word. This can happen naturally over time or when people pronounce words quickly. For instance, in Old English, the word bird used to be pronounced read become bird. the position of the sounds R and I switch. And we can show it like this: CCPC or 1 2 3 4 become CVCC 1 3 2 1 3 2 4. And for the other examples is S become X. The S and K sounds change positions. And the second is comfortable become comfortable. Some sounds are rearranged to make pronunciation easier. And the last is introduce become introduce. The R moves position during casual or fast speech. And we also see this small change make pronunciation easier and more plain in real conversations. Next. So the questions for the metathesis is: why does metathesis often occur when people speak quickly or in casual speech? And the answer is because when people speak quickly, the articulatory muscles try to move in the easiest and most efficient way. So some sounds automatically switch position to make the word easier to pronounce without pausing or slowing down. This. Next.
Okay, my name is Larasati and I will explain the last phonological processes, which is reduplication. So reduplication is a process of copying part of word then attaching the copy to the original word. As example, like helter shelter, willy nilly, poo poo, there, and easy peasy. Okay, next. So I will explain the basic phonological rules. So a phonological rule explains how a sound changes in a specific environment in a language. Imagine a sound A wearing a disguise as sound B whenever it hangs out between friends X and Y. So in nasal deletion rule, the rule shown plus nasal means it sits after a vowel A and at the end of the word, and the glottalization of final voiceless stops explains the P sounds and the PTK sounds are not pronounced. Like example in cat, sometimes people pronounce it as cat and not saying the T. And like in back, people sometimes say it as back, which they're not pronouncing the K. And next will be explained by my partner.
Okay, my name is Sakar and I will explain about the parenthesis notation and the phrases. So, what is parenthesis notation? So, this symbolized by the brackets. So, this indicate that a sound is optional and it has formats, which is A becomes B either between X and Z or between XY and Z, which this XYZ refers to another alphabet. And for the nice better understanding, we have the example. So L becomes dark L before an optional consonant at the end of the word. So to compare what is the light L and dark L. So light L is usually used in the word leaf. Yeah, leaf. And the dark L is in the example. The example is bell. So it has more heavy pronunciation at the end. So bell and milk. So the L becomes dark L before an optional consonant at the end of the word. Next. And the second one is braces. So what is braces? So braces is used to show alternative elements that can occur in a rule. That means we can pick one in several options. So for the example, before we to the example, it also has format. The format is A become B when it's followed by either X or Z and then followed by by Y. And the example is in the word but. So the T is glottalized at the end of the word. And petrol. The T is also glottalized before another consonant. So it becomes the format. So the sound T is glottalized, changed into the glottal stop, either before another consonant or at the end of the word. So next. And in here we have a little exercise to understand the material better. So the first one is the parenthesis notation. So the question is, in the word cats, which transcription correctly shows an optional sound? And the right answer is B. Why? Because parentheses show a sound that may appear or disappear in a real speech. So in a fast or casual English, the T in cats is often not pronounced. So it's more like cat, cat. So we write the T in the brackets to show that the T is optional. And the second question and two is the process. So the question is starting with a rule. Okay, K becomes C before I or before J. And the question is, what is the correct surface form of key? And the correct answer is B, because braces tell us the condition, like this rule is happen in some situations. So the key becomes C only when it comes before I or G. So since K is before I and G, the sound must change to G, which is P. And next material will be explained by my friend.
Hello, my name is Amaris Sasikirana with the student number of 123241111. And now I will be explaining the next material, which is the subscript and superscript. So what is the difference between subscript and a superscript? So subscript is a small number or symbol written below a sound symbol. It only functions as a mark that sounds in a much more heavier or a more complex environment, usually when two or more consonants follow. As you can see below the explanation, there is the rule that A can only become B if it follows two consonants after. And next, we have superscript. So superscript is also a small number or symbol written above a sound symbol. So superscript marks a sound that appears in a much more lighter or much more simpler environment, usually before one consonant. So A can only become B if it follows only one consonant, and you put the number above the consonant, not below, like subscript. Here we have an example. The word button. That's correct. The word beside the word button is the transcription that follows, and rules are the consonant T. So you don't physically pronounce the T, so it's not button, but it's button. So there, it becomes another consonant that only follows one consonant after. So that's why it's a subscript. It's a superscript. And now we have the second example, which is text. In the word text, here we have the transcription, which is text. We don't say text as in text. So we don't pronounce like the T more clearly. It's more like in a fast manner kind of way. So that's why the consonant K becomes a text. There's a stop there. But after the consonant K, it has two consonants after. So that's why it's a subscript. And next, we also have an important matter to also notice that each represents a specific sound environment. So superscript is used when a sound comes before one consonant or none, while subscript is used when it comes before two or more consonants. Using the wrong one would describe the wrong sound pattern. For example, a button doesn't fit a subscript because button doesn't use uh, less than one consonant. Next. Okay, so now I have two easy practices. So there are two questions. So the first question is in C2 or in what does the subscript 2 mean? So these are the options. There are exactly A, exactly two consonants, B, at least two consonants, and then there's C, the sound occurs before vowel, and D, only one consonant follows. So as the question says, in C2, what does the subscript in 2 mean? So a subscript only shows the minimum requirement. So it only shows that in the word button, well, there's only two consonants after. So you can't label button as a superscript because it has two consonants. But you can. It has two consonants or more. That's why it's a superscript. So if the environment is heavy or complex, then the rule applies. So subscript means that the minimum number needed. So that's why it's 2, not 1. That's why it's a subscript. And then the next question, in C1, what does the superscript 1 show? A, the sound occurs after one vowel, B, a maximum of one consonant, C, a minimum of one consonant, and D, exactly two consonants. So here the question is, in C1, what does the superscript in 1 show? So for the answer is basically sound occurs after one vowel. So why is it that answer? Because the superscript gives the maximum numbers allowed. This usually shows in a much more lighter or simpler environment. That follows that after in a word, if it only have one consonant, then it has to be a superscript. It cannot be a subscript. The subscript only applies when there's two or more consonants. Okay, next please. Okay, now we have alpha notations. So what are alpha notations? Alpha, or the symbol A, represents either positive or negative, matching the value of an occurrence of the feature in question elsewhere in the world. So here below the explanation is the formula rule, which a noun or a consonant equals alpha and or beta chord. So what does and mean? So and is the short for anterior. Anterior is the sounds that are made using the front of the mouth, which is p, 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 and when the easy way to identify an anterior is basically when you can see that the lips are actively moving. The lips are actively moving. And below anterior, there's core. So what is core? Core is the meaning of coronal, which are sounds that are made using the tongue of the tip or the bladder. Or, a simple way to identify what's core and what's ant. Ant is where the sounds are used by the active usage of the lips. But core, it doesn't use the lip. For example, like t, d, and s. So here you can't see that the lips are not actively moving, and that's how you can spot the difference between them. So then we have the examples. So first one is unproductive. So there's another explanation that follows the word unproductive. Un is followed by p. So p is positive and negative core. Why is that? So positive and, you can see that when you pronounce the word p, the lips are moving. That's why it's positive. It's not negative. And it's negative core because the lips are moving. It is the opposite of what the definition of a core is. That's why it's negative core. And then below, so n changed to m to match the p's feature. So equals positive and negative core. As you can see, when you pronounce the lips are actively moving. And same as negative core, it is basically the opposite of the word anterior. So it doesn't require the word to not move. So it has to move for you to pronounce the Okay. So next we have the second example, which is indeed. So n is followed by k. So k is indeed. So for k, it equals for negative anterior and negative coronal. So that can also happen. So it doesn't have to be one or the other, it has to be plus or negative. Both can be negative, and this is the example. So in ka, um, it doesn't touch the lips. It doesn't have any activities on the lips, but it doesn't. The tongue doesn't also touch the teeth or, above the mouth. So it's all of the pronunciation of ka happens on the back of the mouth, and that's why it's both of them are negative. Velar and the ka uses velar or the back of the tongue. So so the changed to to match the k, to match the k. So indeed, the it doesn't. So there you have the consonant which is the negative anterior and the negative coronal, where it doesn't apply to both of the features, where it doesn't have anterior and it doesn't apply to coronal as well. Okay, next. Okay. So this is another exercise for this material. What does alpha mean in alpha notation? So we have these options. A is match the feature value of another sound. B, the sound must be deleted. C, the sound becomes a vowel. And D, the sound is stressed. So the correct answer is A, of course. As I explained earlier, alpha's job is basically to match the feature value of another sound. So when we want two sounds to share the same feature, we have to identify if a consonant is either a negative and or negative or uh like if it dwells into one out of the topic, whether it's an and or, we use it to mask these topics by putting alpha or beta as the face of the topic. So it's just like to basically replace by not saying anterior or coronal, but for you to put in that role, you have to put the symbol alpha or beta because you can't put anterior or coronal. You put it beside the anterior or coronal. Apologies. Enough for me. Next. Okay, that is all from our presentation. We would like to thank you if you listened until the end, and we want to apologize if we said the wrong words or misinterpret the information here, but think that's enough from Group 9. We would like to close the information. Thank you and have a good day.